Hello, my friends. Welcome to What's Up. It's nice to have you with us. It's a great day here in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. And I'm here to get together with my friend Gregg Braden, and we're just going to have a conversation for a half an hour about whatever comes to mind, which is what we do every 2 weeks here at What's Up. And so, Greg, nice to see you as always. What's up?
Hey, John, it's good to see you. I hope you feel as good as you look today. And we, I'm coming to you from our studio here just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we've got the same weather you've got. So they gave us a summer for a while, and
Yeah,
it's nice.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, John, I really appreciate the opportunity for these conversations because you and I we think a little differently. I think our viewers know that. And this is an opportunity to talk about things that we're not going to be talking about at a typical conference or a keynote, conversation or a podcast per se. I have been hearing a lot in the last few weeks about the possibility of America not surviving what we are in and what we are headed into right now on a number of levels. This is on certainly on the financial level with the breakdown of the banking system, the buckle and the collapse that we're looking at, the banking system, the loss of the U.S. dollar, not only as a global reserve currency, not only is the petrodollar is on its way out, but the ability to use it among our own citizenry because it has lost over 97% of its purchasing power due to internal policies, not only because of that, but and additionally because of the breaking of the social bonds and the multi-polarization. It's not just two poles. We have multi-poles of social thinking, so that America may not survive this. And when I used to hear it, I first heard this about 10 years ago, and I thought it was a metaphor. And what I'm seeing now is actually proposed legislation for states to become independent, some states to join, regions. So my thinking was, rather than pushing back and saying, oh, that can't happen, is to go with it. What would that look like? And maybe even a bigger question, what does the world look like without an America? Does the world need the America that we've had in the past? And I'd like to hear your thoughts on those things, John.
Wow, the problem's more acute acute than you had the time to mention, because there are all kinds of indicators. I mean, the IRS is intake on a year over year or month over month basis is 35% less than it was a year ago, and so people are not paying their taxes. And you got to ask yourself, well, why would that be? And of course, the wisdom of crowds kind of comes to play, and they smell that this thing is not working and going in the right direction. And you've got, as you know, I follow Martin Armstrong and his computer program, Socrates, which has never been wrong in 40 years. And for 40 years, it's been saying that there's going to be a global civil war between 2025 and 2027. Where there's a planetary uprising of the populations, citizenry against the governments. Well, that's what's getting set up here, is this kind of an uprising against around, by the way, the notion of betrayal, and that people feel that the governments have betrayed them for lots of different kind of reasons. And so yeah, I think it's really happening. I mean, here where we live in the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, we've got 3 adjacent counties in Maryland on the western side of Maryland who all kind of petitioned the West Virginia government that they want to join West Virginia. And there are, 16, I think, if I remember right, counties in eastern Washington state and Oregon and Northern California who have all asked that they want to join Idaho. And so there are these secession movements going on all over the place, right, to say nothing about international ones in Spain and any number of other kind of places, with Catalonia and so on, that are all it's almost like it's written into the equation, and that this thing is going to come increasingly apart, and how it kind of puts together. The fascinating thing is this to me, Greg, is that if you follow, let's say Armstrong, for instance, and Armstrong says the United States of America is gone, and there are 5 different new countries in North America by 2032. Okay, 2032, and that there's a global civil war that ends in 27. And so what you've got is 5 years. 5 years, you have the decomposition and the completely collapse to some degree of the United States of America. I mean, just imagine that in your mind, and the reconstitution into these new entities within 5 years.
Yeah.
How in the world do you do that?
I could see within the union that we have today a rearrangement and maybe changing some borders, or possibly going to a model like Canada has of provinces, where you have a liberal province or multiple, maybe East and West Coast liberal provinces, more conservative provinces in the middle. And what's so interesting, all of our viewers know I'm in the rural communities of the high desert of northern New Mexico, where we are so sparsely populated here in southern Colorado, New Mexico. Nobody cares. They call it the no man's land. You don't see it on any of the plans. It's just like anything goes here. So I could see that. But what Martin Armstrong is talking about, what I'm hearing you describe, is the complete absence of the United States of America as we've known it. And so my question, so I just finished a video on this, and I make a distinction between the idea of America and the implementation of that idea. We are living a flawed implementation. And
Absolutely.
That's where the pushback is coming from internationally.
All these new ideas that are orthogonal to the essential aspects of
well, this is the thing, but then there is the idea that is still, at least for now, the idea of America is still intact. And my question, if we divided into 5 nations, would any of those 5 nations ever give to the people of that nation the freedoms that were enshrined by the framers of this nation as we have it now? Would any nation ever give its people the freedoms of speech and religion and the right to bear arms?
And more than that, because I think that this is an extraordinary opportunity for the emergence of the core of the new world, and that in fact that this reorganization, coupled with the fluidity of ideas and people and even travel that is enabled by the internet, will allow people to like-minded people to find themselves in a way that they've never been able to do before, and to move to places like Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, where like-minded people have come together in a community that is just really pretty wonderful. And I'm convinced that this is a great opportunity to build a new country.
Does the world need America? Does the world need a strong America with the visions and the values that the framers?
The Chinese and the Russians don't think so.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a multipolar world now, and so I mean, the problem is not what the essence of who Americans were. It's what it's become because of government and other kinds of things. And what we've done is we've besmirched the essence, the wonderful things that are in the Midwest and in the countryside. Diane and I drove up to central Pennsylvania on Friday to ride a steam train, among other things. And it was just, postcard America. It was just these wonderful little towns and people, but that's not what our government generates, and that's not the image that gets broadcasts to other countries because of our government and the media. It can reconstitute around that, certainly with new leadership. But you have to have enlightened people, and here's the chance for enlightened people to do something really significant.
So I'm happy to hear that. First of all, I'm happy to hear those little towns were there and you had such a good experience, because that's how you really see this country. If you go airport to airport, you just see the airports. You don't really know until you walk into the Walmarts and the 7-Elevens, what and the Quick Trips and all that, what this country looks like. It would be a tremendous opportunity to do something that we've never seen done before. And I guess the question, John, is it all boils down. It's not the act, it's the thinking underlying the act. So the question is, would the thinking, if this was
this is Willis Harman's space. Willis Harman wrote this book that's a global mind change, and essentially said that you're not going to change any of the systems and the big high level kind of things if you haven't had a general mind shift. And this is the opportunity for the emergence of a whole mind shift. And it may not be every one of the 5 countries. As a matter of fact, it's unlikely that it'd be all of them. But there's a chance that you could get one where lots of folks, like-minded folks who wanted to live in a different way and get along and other kinds of things could all come together.
No, I agree, John. I guess, it's like anything. It's like the central bank digital currency. In and of itself, it's not a bad technology. It's how it's used. It's the thinking underlying it. Yeah. So breaking America into 5 nations, if it's done from a place by the people who are running it now, if it's done from a place of greed and corruption, you're going to see concentrated greed and corruption. If it's done from a place of
more of the same. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's done from a place, if one of those nations was born out of the love for what's possible in the human condition and how far we can go with the beautiful dreams that we've created in our lives, and allow technology to serve us. If one of those 5 could achieve that, maybe that's what the world. I
mean, this is like the opportunity presented to humanity, or in this continent at least, to kind of start over and redo it. And it's like going to the new semester in college. You're over with the last one, now you can start over again.
Do you think this is what is trying to happen in Europe as well? They're trying to break the huge nation of Ukraine and the smaller nations that would
well, I think there's a couple of problems that don't make the press very often much at all, and that is that the corruption in the leadership and the high levels of Ukraine extend way over into the leadership of lots of other countries, including the United States.
Yeah.
And that one of the reasons that they're keeping this thing going, because they're scared to death that if the Ukraine collapses, that they'll all get exposed, which could happen. And if that could happen, that could be part of the impetus for the degeneration of the larger kind of system.
My only sense, John, I'm seeing things unravel so quickly. I wouldn't be surprised to see this happen before 2025, before the dates, because I think everything's accelerated.
It's only a year and a half away.
Well, I think the 24 election is going to be a very, very rough election. All the signs point to that. Doesn't have to be, but I think that's probably what's going to happen. And I think that may be the catalyst that triggers a whole lot of other things, or maybe pulling out all of the stops as each candidate pulls out all the stops to get the other one elected. We're going to see whistleblowers. We're going to see probably more on disclosure and the technology that has been under wraps because we've not had full disclosure. I think the corruption, the levels of corruption and the tentacles of corruption, I think all that's going to come out in this election. And that could be the catalyst. You're right, John. That could be the catalyst for, a few months later in 25.
Let me tell you, if they don't get enough money to pay agencies of the government, then you're going to start to see secrets come out from inside the government from people who've got nothing else to sell but their secrets in order to pay their bills and keep their family alive. And so that
We saw that we saw that at the end of the Cold War
Yeah,
coming out of Russia. It's exactly what happened coming out of Russia.
yeah.
John, thank you for the conversation. And I'm going to be thinking about this for the rest of the day. It's interesting. We have these for 30 minutes, but the conversation in my heart and in my mind doesn't end at the 30 minutes.
Well,
It's with me for the
that's
rest of the
good.
day.
That's
Yep.
the
And
idea.
I appreciate you, my friend, for that.
Yeah,
So I look
likewise,
forward to our next.
likewise.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And thank you all of you who are our viewers, our friends from all over the world who watch this. And we really appreciate the comments and the very supportive kind of feedback that we get from all of you. And we hope that you'll go check out the Arlington Institute at arlingtoninstitute.org and see some of the other programs and things that we've got going. And come to Berkeley Springs in August, and Gregg will be here in person, and then we'll have a wonderful weekend together. And so thanks so much. Take care. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.